from Wildlife Institute of India in 2011. Right now, he's a Cambridge scholar and he also has experience at Oxford, and I'm sure we can hear more about that during the Q&A section we'll be having with him. Welcome to the program, sir. I would also like to introduce our two moderators for the day, Dr. Smita Ashok, Assistant Professor, PG and Research Department of Environmental Sciences, and Ms. Grace Dilip, Assistant Professor, Department of Zoology. Welcome, Smita, and welcome, Divya.
Thank you.
Also, I welcome all the ASCIites who have joined us and all the students from other colleges who are with us today. We experienced a small technical difficulty in the beginning. Please bear with us because of such things. We will try to, if at all something happens, we will try to sort it out as fast as we can. So with that, I will pass on the session to Dr. Smita Ashok, who will be moderating this talk for us. So over to you, Dr. Smita.
Okay, thank you, Diana. So, welcome all to this online session, and please give me a moment so that I can just take you all for a quick rush through the program agenda as well as the program protocols. Hope it is visible.
Not yet. I think it's on the way, but I can't see anything right now. Smita, I think we have a problem with the presentation that you're making. We can't see anything right now.
Oh, okay. And then I'll just give you a quick rush through. I welcome all the participants, and the participants are requested to kindly keep their cameras on and microphones off throughout the session. And the participants can interact with the expert at the end of the talk by posting their questions in the chat box. We'll be handling this session in two parts. In the first part, Mr. Pachuau will be discussing the book, and in the second part, the participants are they can pose their questions, or they can even ask the question, interact with the expert by live chat, or they can unmute and ask their questions as well. And in case of any immediate queries or responses during the session, you can use the hand raise button, but avoid using it during the expert session. So that's all about the program. And now I invite Mr. Pachuau to carry on with the session. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Smita. Diana, can we share the screen? Sorry, not for the.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just a minute.
Yeah.
Sister.
All right. Yep. Can we make it like the full screen mode? Is it possible? Okay, perfect. Thank you. I am audible, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Should I start?
Yes,
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 sir. You
please,
can
sir.
start.
Okay.
Please.
Okay. Fine. Thank you to one and all. Special thanks to Diana for inviting me for the program from the literary club. I am not an expert in zoology. I just this book is it's very relevant to our present day context. Even though this was a book that was published sometime back in 2012, 13. What I'll be doing in this session would be just to have a glimpse of what this book and what David is trying to say, and maybe dwell later on in the larger implications of the whole concept of animal infections, the whole concept of zoonosis, and then what can we do as as students or as human beings to ensure that such pandemics do not happen again, or we are better prepared to handle such pandemics in the future. Uh, so this is a book called Spillover: Animal Infections and the Next Human Pandemic, and it's a book written by David Quammen. Mr. Quammen is uh, 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 is a person like who has been writing quite a lot of book on ecology, even evolutionary biology. His one book called Song of Dodo is a book which is um hugely praised. And he has also a series of books which came out after Spillover, which I'll also be mentioning in one of the slides. Uh, Before we really go on, I would like to know whether all of us are comfortable with these words which have come up in screen, like spillover, pandemic. Maybe pandemic, maybe all of us may be knowing. Spillover is a concept mostly used in economics. However, it has also now slowly coming towards biology, wherein spillover refers to diseases uh, when they get transmitted, from host. Means host can be an organism which which has the virus or has the microorganism, whichever it is, and through some random factors or through some combinations, permutations, the virus gets spilled over, or it gets transmitted, to a non-host system, which could be a human being or which could be any other living organism, wherein the virus or the microorganism can thrive. So there's this concept called zoonosis. so which basically mentions, or which basically is about diseases which are transmitted from animals to, wild animals, or to human beings. So these are concepts which I thought maybe we can dwell on. In pandemic, all of us know what is the idea. Yeah. Can we go to this next slide, please? Yeah. So basically, this book was initially published in 2012. The copy I'm having now is of a vintage collection. This is of the vintage publishing. However, the original publication was not of vintage. It was something else. The current book I'm having in this, it is about 520 pages, excluding the notes which are at the end of the, at the end of the book. It is said that David took about 6 years to write this book. It is very comprehensive. Um, and I've mentioned names of two books, which are called The Chimpander River, and the other book on Ebola, the natural and human history of a deadly virus. These are books which are very, very similar to Spillover, which came out after Spillover book. So basically, these are extensions of certain portions of the book of Spillover, which have been described in detail. Like, for example, The Chimp and the River is basically a story of how AIDS might have originated from, the chimpanzees. And it's also an excellent book. If you do get time, I would suggest you to look over and check out this book. And the second one, called Ebola, the natural and human history of deadly virus. This is also an extension of a chapter of the book from this spillover. And again, this is a history and this entire story of Ebola virus, which has been one of the highly lethal viral infection that has spilled over from wild animals. There has been many reviews about this book, which we are currently studying, and I just wanted to mention one. Daily Beasts has said that this was the scariest book, that you can read, in the year in which it was published. Generally, the book has been getting a very commendable feedbacks, positive feedbacks, in that the book is not trying to sensationalize, pandemics, but it was very scientific, but not loaded with scientific jargons. It was very forward directed, and it tells of stories, like people affected by certain diseases and how those diseases might have emerged without it being too scientific, and which is readily understood by any common person who reads the book. So in a sense, it's a great introduction to the whole concept of zoonosis and diseases which originate from animals, and how we as human beings might be responsible for such outbreaks, and what is there in store for future. I mean, that is something I think that is left to us. Yeah. All right. Can we have the next slide, please? All right. Yeah. So I'll just go scroll through certain chapters or certain stories which are mentioned in this book. The author has tried to give us a detail of certain diseases which has come up in the last few years, like couple of years, and see how the whole concept of spillover or zoonosis has come over time. In the first chapter, there was a story of Hendra virus, which is actually was first observed in Australia and found to be spreading in horses. It's an story in which I feel it is a very good opening for this book. And Hendra virus, which people were not knowing what the virus was, because it was that particular strain of virus has never been isolated or even documented. So we get this story where a couple of horses started dying, and the people, human beings who were in close contact with some of these horses also started dying. Um, and then the whole story of how the virus got isolated. And even after isolation of the virus, it was not like they were not knowing from where the, what the host might be, because they were like, literally screening every, living organism, up to dogs, and like animals, wild animals which frequent such landscapes. Um, then even like, if I think it was after a year, like they were able to zero in on the flying foxes, which were roosting in some some trees, uh, a couple of miles from where the virus was or the disease was initially reported. Then we come to a story again wherein there was an outbreak of Ebola virus, um, which might have which had led to the death of gorillas in Central Africa. Um, uh, and Ebola was again equally deadly to human beings, and I think it was not, I think till now it is one of the most lethal diseases that has ever spread from wild animals. There was also a story in Borneo where there was a monkey, a malaria, which was spreading from so-called monkeys into people, and it is a very interesting story. Definitely, I would if anyone has a book to read this particular chapter, and how we assume things which may not affect us, can do affect us, like, and then how certain people, like this epidemiologist called Balbir Singh, who then actually investigated through a series of interesting incidents, and how this malaria was sort of like formulated, and like, and how it was, the entire story of how it was discovered. So it's an interesting interesting story which the Kwame has narrated. All right, can we have the next slide, please? Then again, we come to the story of SARS, as many of us may be aware of, which was a respiratory disease which has shaken the world, I would say, a couple of years back, especially in Asia. So in this book also, Kwame has narrated the story in China, wherein civet cats, again wild animals, um, um, which were affected or infected, I would say, uh, uh, from bats. Um, and then how the virus got transmitted to people, And we have already heard of stories of the SARS outbreak in China, in Hong Kong, if I'm not mistaken, yeah, in Hong Kong. In the entire episode itself, I think more than 1.5 million people have been infected with this respiratory infection. There was also this story in the next chapter, wherein Kwame was narrating about another disease called which spread from mice, which were living around human habitations, and causes this again another interesting disease called Lyme disease. And this was in upstate New York, which is like a fully metropolitan area. So this story from this, especially this story of Lyme disease, it became very clear that we don't really have to live, like in a countryside, somewhere we think is close to wildlife populations. But even in upstate New York, wherein we have just, large congregations of people with hardly any wildlife presence, but there are chances, that such diseases can or such outbreaks can happen anytime. So this chapter on Lyme disease was very interesting, especially to people who live in big cities. Um, Again, David Quammen, the author, has been very, I would say, interested with this whole concept of the origin of HIV and AIDS, which was again, as I already mentioned, described in greater detail in his the book which came up soon after spillover in the Chimpander River. So again, he told the story of how the origin of HIV, or AIDS, could be traced, and the first victim, a potential victim, according to him, was traced somewhere in Cameroon. So again, this was also an interesting subject, and which he has elaborated in greater detail in his subsequent book, in the Chimpander River. Yeah. Next slide, please. So that is just a brief about the various topics, or the various stories, in short, of which David has mentioned in his book. So something that might come into our mind is, so okay, we may not have direct contact with wildlife, or organisms which live in deep jungles, but how do we contract diseases which are from such organisms? So one of the most common route definitely is through the domesticated animals, like from cows and pigs and even chicken, and those which we consume on a daily basis by many of us. um, what happened is, many of these hosts, for example, if we talk about bats, they will harbor these viruses, in themselves, without making the virus will not affect them, but they will harbor the viruses. So, say for example, a domesticated animal, which we farm, or which is close to such areas, when they graze inside the forests, or when they come in contact, they can easily get transmitted to these domesticated animals, and they may or may not be affected. But when such domesticated animals are in direct contact with us, there is a very high chance that the disease also spills, again from domesticated animals, or it could just be a direct transmission, uh, from the host to the recipient, which could be a domesticated animal, or human beings ourselves. Yeah. All right. Next slide, please. One of the important questions I think that has come up in recent years, and that has also been debated in Kerala, for example, was this whole story that certain wild animals um, um, may be, more responsible for bringing this kind of what to say, diseases into human beings. I remember there was this whole debate about bats, and how bats are responsible for bringing certain diseases. And I remember there was this whole sentiments for and against bat conservation, even in the state of Kerala, when there was this disease which was detected, and found out that bats were actually carriers of this disease. And so however, one thing which I would like to which I deeply share with the sentiment of the author is, that we have slowly, over the years, increased our contact with wild animals. Many of these viruses wild animals harbor in themselves has been shaped by evolution over millions of years. through that process, even though these animals may be having viruses with them, because of this whole process of evolutionary, uh, understanding, I would say, the viruses do not harm the host or which carries the virus. However, when we intrude into the habitats of these wild animals, when we clear forests, when we go inside forests, and then because there's some sort of stability out there, when we go in as outsiders and do something to disrupt this complex balance of nature, these viruses, they let loose through various modes of transmission, and this has been very beautifully captured, by David Quammen, and I think that is one of the central theme or focus of this book, trying to understand that we as humans has disrupted the natural world, and that the balance that is out there, we may not know what actually constitute balance or ecological balance is, but it is out there. And then when we go and disrupt that system and make our ingress by making roads, by cutting forests, that balance is taken away, and the viruses that are latent, in these organisms, they are let loose, and then we have been seeing the repercussions of that, right from Ebola, wherein certain infected that primates were eaten by the local people, and then that is one of the central theme and focus of this book, and I think the author has done a good job. Yeah. All right. Next slide, please. The author was also trying to narrate about certain animals which are in danger of extinction, and for various reasons. It could be direct extermination of the species through hunting or poaching incidences, and we have also lately seen animals which have been traded, both nationally as well as internationally, illegally traded. We have heard stories of keeping wild animals in captivity, in very unhygienic conditions, and there is this constant understanding that the habitats of these wild animals are degraded over time, either through human interventions, or the quality of the forest or the habitat in which these animals live have changed over time. When we think of all these stories and all this kind of interventions which we as human beings have done over the years, David was questioning, and he was challenging us that if we do, or if we continue this kind of activities, we can expect to have an increased incidence of such outbreaks in the future. And on the one hand, it will create outbreaks for and we as human beings will be more susceptible because we are not used to having such viruses in our system. And on top of that, it will lead to extermination of certain species, which are already in the danger of extinction. So it's going to be a double-edged sword. Yeah. All right. Next slide, please. So what is in store for us next? Again, the author has tried to raise this question. So if all these epidemics and diseases which gets transmitted from animals continue into the future, what will be the fate of mankind? I remember in this book, the author has hinted that in the next couple of years, there's going to be a next outbreak. It could be a virus, it could be a viral outbreak, it could be anything. which may be more dangerous than say AIDS, and which till now has been like one of the deadliest viral infections that has been that has been suffered by human beings. Um, so when he wrote this book was in 2012. It has been almost 8 to 10 years now, like when the story has been shaped. And he was right, and like already we are now facing a pandemic for which we do not yet have a vaccine, and we do not yet know the complications of this virus, and how we as mankind, how are we supposed to react to this virus. None of us were prepared, even though he has told us like 8 to 10 years before that this kind of outbreaks are going to happen as long as we interfere with the natural world, and as long as we continue to destroy and disrupt the natural balance that is out there in the natural world. So I think so. This is a big question that has been posed by the author to the readers, and how can we be prepared? So either as a preventive measure, or if we do get such outbreaks, how do we as a community of as of human beings or mankind, how do we tackle such pandemics in the future? So I think this is something which we all have to question and try to find answers ourselves. Yeah. All right. Next slide, please. So this is so this is between inverted commas. This is one of the reviews which I've seen in one of the magazines, and I think it is telling quite well. Whatever I was trying to tell through this discussion. This book, even though it is something which is very scientific and very public health discourse, it is not just that. I mean, it is. I think it is very much entwined with the whole ecological security of the state, or of the country, of the world. Through this kind of spillovers or disease outbreaks, I think the author was trying to reinforce that there are certain mechanisms, that are happening out there in the natural world. Like we may be knowing about the Darwinian evolutionary theory, wherein all living organisms up to viruses are just trying to survive. They're just trying to transmit their genome or their DNA or their and trying to create offsprings, and trying to leave the best to the future. I mean, that is what all of us as living organisms we are doing. So this is an ecological affirmation in the sense of trying to understand that what we have, even though it may be minimal or maybe more, we have an impact in the whole ecological cycle as human beings, and all of us share the same faith. What we do to others, it's like karma. It comes back to us. We are all in this together. So if some viral outbreak happens, either it will spread through another living organism, or it can even spread through human beings. And we are sharing this world together, and all of us are just trying to survive. So in a sense, the book really challenges us, to and try to make us understand what is our role in this whole chain of ecological cycle. What is our role as human beings, and what we should or should not do, to ensure that it is not just our lives that is put into, that is up there, but we are also responsible for the, the lives and the continuation of various species, we share this earth with. If we're not careful, and if we continue to be destructive, and if we continue to invade, the spaces, of these animals, in forest or in whichever natural community they're in, it will not just be disruptive to them, but it will eventually, fall back onto us. So to conclude, I would say this is an excellent book. I would definitely recommend this book to be read by all of you whenever you find time. There are even digital copies if you cannot get hold of the physical copy. And if you have already read the book, I'm very happy. You can continue to read. I mentioned the Chimpander River, which is a story about the AIDS, how AIDS emerged in Central Africa, and the Ebola book, which was narrating about the story of the origin of Ebola virus and how it has caused massive, human fatalities. And then there are other books of his, like which I really enjoy, called the Song of Dodo, which I think all zoology students, are reading. Um, yeah. So to conclude, my final understanding, as I said, is that we as human beings, we are a part of a complex system of ecological balance and ecological integrity, and we have a moral responsibility to preserve and protect such natural landscapes and to live in harmony, with the space, we share with. Otherwise, eventually, this kind of epidemics and infections do come around, and in the end, we as human beings, struggle to find a cure. It's going to happen, and unless and until we make peace with the natural world around us, we just have to expect such things to recur one after the other. It could be influenza. It is influenza virus now. It could be some other viral strain. 10 years or 20 years from now, we don't know. So let our final takeaway be that we can never fall out of the ecological chain, and we are just a part of the chain, and what we do to that chain will affect everything that is in that chain. So let us use this book to make ourselves aware of our role, and as stewards of this ecological landscape that is put forward to us, let us be morally responsible for the actions which we are doing to our natural wealth and our natural resources. Thank you, Diana. Thank you to Literary Club for giving me this opportunity, and I would be very happy to take any questions if there is any. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Pachuau, for that wonderful analysis and interpretation that you have presented here. And I suppose the ultimate takeaway from the whole manuscript is the idea that we are all in it together. So let's see.
Exactly.
So let's see what our other participants has in their minds regarding the book. The session is now open for discussion. If you have any.
Hello, Smita. Before the girls start asking, can I just pose a question to sir, please?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Uh, Sir, I just happened to listen to an interview given by Mr. David Quammen regarding this
Yeah.
book that he had written. So in it, he
Okay.
was saying that he has been, even though the book took 6 years to be
Yeah.
completed, he had
Yeah.
been working on it 6 years prior to that as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like when we look at it, almost 12 years in the making of this book.
Exactly.
So it's like it's kind of it's a book that's now would be 20 years old, and
Exactly.
so even at that point he was able to predict the possibility of such a huge pandemic, in
Correct.
coming into existence. So and
Yes.
also he happens to mention that AIDS, like we know that it gained such a scientific attention and importance in the 50s, 60s, and 70s,
Yes.
but
Yes.
there is evidence like that points to its existence in the 1905 itself, and as early as
Yeah.
that. So
Yes. Yes.
so I just had this doubt that isn't there a possibility that this pandemic, this
Mm,
COVID-19, this strain also
mm,
might have been in
mm,
existence much before
mm,
we came to realize it, like
mm,
much before it got this pandemic a title.
mm, mm.
So that is what
Yeah.
I would like to know.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a good chance, as I said before also, that there are so many, viral strains or, this kind of thing which are latent, which are not displayed, by so many host species in the natural world. It
Yes.
could be bats, it could be any other organism,
Yes.
and the virus and the host, they have been living in perfect harmony. That is just how evolution has shaped them over the years.
Yes,
But
sir.
as I said, but through some random interaction, or some spillover, as we have discussed, through some interaction, through that host may have with another organism,
Yeah.
or it may be with humans. It just gets displayed, at the right time. So there is definitely, a chance which we cannot discount for it. Yeah.
Oh, yes, sir. Yeah, true. So, while the kids are just thinking about all these things, so I would like to know, were you always interested in, becoming an IFS officer, like as a child?
No, not really. I mean, I was very much interested in academics. I wanted to be a PhD, and then maybe, be a part of the university setting, like a professor.
Okay.
But yeah, so but in the end, like, I joined the services, mostly because, I realized that service gives you a platform, to make changes, maybe in a larger context.
Okay.
But the whole idea of, being more of a researcher is still there. So that's why I make sure that, I will, like, also have that aptitude in mind,
Okay.
and be a civil servant. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Now, so what course are you pursuing in the Cambridge University right now?
So this is a master's course called conservation leadership.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a 11 months program, basically trying to understand, the leadership theories in
Okay.
conservation, and how we can be a more, effective leaders. It's a wonderful course. We just started. Yeah, yeah,
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, sir.
yeah. Okay, welcome.
Smita, would you like to take a few questions and post it to Sir from the chat?
I think I'm having connectivity issues. So, if anybody else can see the chat, can you please read out the question, Diana? It's not visible for me right now.
Okay. There is a question that Anne Rachma has posed here. She asks Mr. Pachuau, what are the mistakes humanity, some of the glaring mistakes that humanity has made, that has probably given rise to these pandemics? Some of the big mistakes
I think the biggest mistake
are
is,
dealing.
yeah, okay. I would say I may be dramatic about it, but I think the biggest mistake, which we are still continuing to make, is the non-realization that, we are part of this whole system of ecological integrity. We can never be out of that chain because we are just a part of it. And the sad thing is we act and behave, as if we are outside the system, and what we do to the chain, it does not befalls on us. I mean, it's a very old ecological belief, and I still feel that is the biggest misunderstanding, or maybe we do not understand it, or we choose to not understand it, for whatever reason. And that, I think, that has been the biggest mistake we are still committing as mankind. uh, n- that we, not understanding that we are part of this system, and uh, what we do to ourselves, what we do to others, it just falls back to us. Yeah.
Diana, can I just speak to sir, please?
Yes, sure. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So it is very interesting that you just said this because in that interview that I mentioned earlier, uh,
Mm,
David was saying that it's a human population that is it's exploding, and whereas
yeah.
all the others are on the decline. So for the viruses and such organisms, it's kind of a
Mm,
jackpot. Once they enter the human system, they can just there's no worry that their hosts are going to
mm,
decline. So it's
mm.
something we really need to think. It's just one. It's not just one strain. There are so many of them,
Yeah,
like waiting
yeah, yeah.
to.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct. Yeah.
Right. So if you do not have any more questions, can we go back to Smita? Smita, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Since
Okay.
I can't see any more questions coming up. So,
Okay, I'll pick the questions for you then. There is one question by Arya. In every 100 years, we are facing pandemics. Is there any possibility to end this? And if so, how can we think of at least one possibility to end it?
Mm. Yeah, I think it's good realization that pandemics are just part of us. And I think in the book also, I think he has mentioned that we call, okay, this kind of pandemics is something very extreme, but it is just a virus. For a virus, it is just a virus way of living. Just as in the book also it was mentioned that we have external forces, which destroy us. For example, a prey is eaten by predator, and then we say, okay, that's very natural. Or as we human beings, we catch some diseases or something and we die, and like, okay, that is natural. Or old age, we die and it's natural. But if you look at the other way, it is just this thing is happening internally. Like a virus is just trying to establish itself in its host, which may be us as human beings, and the virus is just winning. So um, definitely, as we mentioned before, also there will be pandemics in the future. Uh, and as I said before, as long as we continue to intrude into the natural areas and disrupt that cycle that is happening out there, we are going to have pandemics. And I'm not an expert in infectious diseases, or I don't know, I may not be having the right solution. But just we have to be informed, we have to know that such outbreaks are going to happen, and sadly it may just happen at increased rates in the future. um, just from our side, as students, or as people in this thing, I think the only thing we can do is to ensure that we live in harmony with the natural world around us, and give this awareness to people around us, that we need to share spaces, and we are not just like we are not just the boss out there. We are just part of that system, and just be prepared, for whatever may come. Yeah.
Um, just one question about vaccines. There are
Yes.
two students asking whether whether vaccinating, even wild animals, is it even a possibility? And also, if COVID vaccine is anywhere around the corner, do you
Mhm.
think it's really gonna help?
Yeah, maybe I'm hoping, maybe by next year. I'm not sure by spring we'll get a vaccine, but I expect, a vaccine at least for this COVID-19 for next year. It is definitely not possible to vaccinate animals against virus. First of all, we do not know what are the viruses, or the virus strains that are harboring, and then which one of that will become the next virus strain that infects human beings. We have no idea. So we don't have the mechanism yet. So I mean, I don't think it's doable by scientists, to like literally check each and every single strain and what may be, the next outbreak. And it's not possible. I mean, it may be possible, but I don't think it's doable, in due course. Um, so I think that is the limitation in our side, maybe our scientific limitation. Uh, uh, and if we do that, I'm just worried that it may just have more negative repercussions. Like for example, mentioned about the bats story in Kerala also, when we had that incident. I mean, the outbreak last time. Many of the ideas were of like very negative, and like people just wanted to exterminate, bats, whichever bats they see their surroundings. So unless until we have a very good scientific backup and understanding of the whole process, I mean, uh, um, it is better not to make any move. Yeah.
Okay, there is also like one quick question. Nipah, Ebola, were all kind of very deadly and contagious. Why is it that COVID-19 became such a scare, such a fear? Why is this like really different? Is it the number of
Um,
deaths? Is it something else?
yeah, but if you mentioned about Nipah, and like you mentioned SARS also, right? So they were, I mean, they were not to the extent in which, the pandemicity, I would say, was not to the extent which has been seen in, for say, Nipah or for SARS. Like if you look at SARS, it was mostly in the South Asian countries, like from China, Hong Kong, India, and these kind of areas. Um, but if you look at COVID-19, it has, first of all, we were very unprepared, and we were not knowing, about this thing at all. Like, I mean, and countries were differing, and there were differing opinions which were coming out from heads like, say, World Health Organizations. Um, um, and in a matter of time, it has engulfed, the entire planet. So I think um, uh, that has really, like, taken to us in a storm. But if you ask me the lethality, I would definitely say Ebola, which was there in remote parts of Africa, that was much more deadlier. If you look at the mortality rates, COVID-19 may not be the deadliest in terms of like actual number of people who were infected and who have actually died than say Ebola, but just that it became such a big I mean, like a pandemic which has really engulfed the world. I mean, I think that is maybe a reason why it has garnered much attention. Yeah.
I think there's one more question. What are the other factors playing a role in zoonotic disease emergence? Can you?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think the book was very clear. I mean, like it tells of various. Basically, there is some sort of contact. Like if we look, there was a story as I mentioned in the first chapter about the Hendra virus, which was detected in horses. These horses were managed, by these people, and they were for like riding and for entertainment, for sports and all. Um, and they were not knowing like how this the virus got into into these horses. Then they got to understand that there were certain bats which were roosting close to in a tree which was few miles from where the first reported mortality has happened. And but they do not know like how there was contact between whether there was actually direct contact between the horses and the and the bats, or so it could be like there could be so many ways of transmission. I mean, like which we may not yet even understand as of now. um, Definitely, if it is a viral strain, definitely there has to be a living to living, there will be a living to living transmission. Sometimes there could be certain strains of microorganisms, which may not require a living body to transmit. Uh, uh, so I think there are so many ways of transmission. I mean, we just have to be very careful. Yeah.
So,
If I,
from that, I'd like to ask one question myself. We have been hearing about these allegations of bioterrorism and not from the outset of this outbreak, and even very recently, it has been resurfacing again and again. Bioterrorism. So, what's your take on it, sir?
yeah. Um, Yeah, bioterrorism is definitely something, as governments, have to be aware of. I think it is more of governments or countries trying to subdue the other country, but I would still argue, even without, the whole concept of bioterrorism, this kind of spillovers and outbreaks are going to happen. I think bioterrorism is not our immediate threat per se, as long as countries are, at peace with each other. But the larger context is this kind of pandemics, which just arose out of from systems which we are not able to understand or comprehend. At least if it is a bioterrorism attack, we can sort of foresee. Governments, intelligence bureaus, and countries can foresee which countries or which their allies or someone. So some sort of understanding is there. But when we talk about pandemics, it just happens, and we are not aware. We are not like prepared, because we do not know where it may be coming from, where the source may be, and what kind of viral or what kind of currently maybe we have no understanding. Yeah, definitely bioterrorism is something we have to be concerned about, but equally or more importantly, I think these kind of outbreaks are something which we just have to be prepared and see how we take it forward, even as a government. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
And I think since no more questions are coming up, I'll hand over to Diana.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Smita. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Pachuau, for answering all the questions so patiently. I know that you have a busy day ahead. So thank you so much for spending so much time with us, for taking us through this wonderful book. Thank you very much for your time. I now hand over the session to Divya, who will be proposing a formal vote of thanks. Over to you, Divya.
Thank you, Diana. Good afternoon, Mrs. Samuel, colleagues, sisters, and dear friends. I'm sure I speak on everyone's behalf when I say that this has been truly a wonderful and a really interactive session. On behalf of All Saints College, I would like to extend a heartfelt thanks to Mr. Samuel Pachuau for accepting our invitation and introducing the book Spillover, Animal Infections and the Next Human Pandemic by David Quammen to the members of the Literary Club. Thank you, sir. I would also like to thank all the club members for your active participation in making this online talk a success. Once again, thank you all and have a great day.
Thank you for
Thank you
inviting me.
very
Yeah, I
much.
really enjoyed the program. Yeah. Can I have Dinah? Can I have the recording of the if
Yes,
a
sir.
recording was done? Yeah,
Sure.
that will be
We will
good.
send
Yeah,
you the link. And there
sure.
is a small clarification I want to give the students here. I think the link that I sent you for the form, the feedback form is not working, in which case you will receive an email by tonight. All right. So
Yeah.
that's it. So thank you
All
very
right.
much, Mr.
And
Patel, for being with us
yeah,
again.
and if there's any further questions or anything which they can always get back to me through email or through you or something, and I'll be happy to give my
Okay. All
opinions
right.
or ideas. Yeah, anytime.
All right. So I'll
So thank
share
you.
Sir's mail here, in which case you can write to him, ask any questions. Is that okay?
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
very much.
Diana. Thank you, everyone. Yeah. Okay.
Thank
Have a
you
good
very
day.
much for
Yeah.
joining us,
Bye.
everybody.
Okay.
Have a good day.
Okay. Bye. Bye.
So thank you, everybody, for joining us.